Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast with your hosts, George Tsounyas
and Maria Petrakou. Now today we're talking about the island of Folegandros. It's a small island in the southern part of the Cyclades.
And this one Maria has been to. I have not yet had the pleasure, but I'm particularly excited to explore this island on this episode today, as my pre-podcast research has shown there is a lot of trekking on this island and it still retains an unspoilt charm. But before we dive into this island, if you're not following us on Instagram, head over now and hit that button on the Insta handle at My Greek Island.
Exactly. And if you also enjoy this podcast, head over and give us a rating and maybe a review on the podcast platform of your choice, because it does help us keep coming back with even more content.
So, without further ado, let's get in to today's episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, dedicated to take you, the wanderlust, on a journey through Greece.
There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next?
My Greek Island, with your hosts George and Maria.
Folegandros, an island of incredible beauty that, whilst it is nestled between some of the more well-known islands, I think of Santorini and Paros, it somehow manages to retain, you need to tell me if I'm right from my research, Maria, but apparently it still managed to retain an unspoilt charm, and it's not as popular, not saying that it isn't popular, but with international tourists as some of the bigger islands. Would you agree?
I'd agree that it's more unspoilt due to the fact that, and we'll talk about it a lot, I guess, in the episodes, that none of the beaches are organised, which is one of the charms. It's not crowded with hotels. There's very few hotels. So I think due to the fact that it can't accommodate many people, and it's not as easy to get to as some other islands which offer international airports, you will want to have to go there to get there, I guess.
Yeah. And according to Greek mythology, for all our mythology enthusiasts, its name comes from a son of Minos, the king of Crete, and son of Zeus. The landscape is very varied. I think I've seen in some of your pictures, with large cliffs, caves. The capital of the island, Chora, which is the name of most of the island capitals, isn't it? Have we mentioned this before?
I think we have mentioned it.
Why it's called.
Most of the main villages on the islands are actually called Chora. Some do not have this. We do have some exceptions, but most of the islands do have an area called Chora, which is usually the main town or village.
And the capital of the island is actually built at the top of a 200-meter cliff, so you're very high up. It does have a prominent gastro, which, if you've listened to our podcast, you should know what the word gastro means, because we've featured it before as a Greek phrase. It actually means castle, and it's a protected heritage site. Now, in the winter, I think probably around 300 people live there. And the island's website, Folegandros, says it's a very fashionable island. And
does it?
The final thing, according to my research,
fashionable as in fashion or something else?
I just think, I don't know, cool. I mean, that's what they wrote. It's a fashionable island. So I don't know. Did you see fashionistas out and about, or maybe it's just a cool island, or they just went with that adjective?
I have no idea. It's definitely not an island where you'll see people dressing up. People are sort of dressing down on this island. And
okay, fair. Chilled. Maybe it's those that undercover fashionistas that don't want to be seen on the big islands. Who knows? Anyway, the final thing, according to my research, the best way to explore the island is walking. So apparently there are lots of routes for trekking and walking, and the walking paths are well traced, something that wasn't always the case in other islands where we've had to kind of scrabble our way around to find how to get to places. So I'm kind of like, where do I sign up and why didn't we propose to go here?
Before everyone
disagree?
starts walking around Folegandros though, let's just say that there's lots of trek routes. I'm not sure we didn't walk. We did do some of the treks. And when I say we, I mean the friend that I visited Folegandros with. I'm not sure I would walk around in the middle of the day with the heat in August, but I would definitely try some of the routes at appropriate times. One that we did was marked, however, could have been better marked, but there are some routes that are very well marked.
So, as we always do on this podcast, let's talk about what's the best way to get there.
So first I'm going to say the most common way to get there. And then, we can build on what's the best way depending on where you're coming from. But the most common way to get there is actually to take a boat from the main port in Athens. And now this is quite an interesting one, depending on whether you take a fast speed one or not, the time could vary from 4 to 9 hours.
Wow.
So if you take the fast one, it can be 4 hours. If you don't take the fast one, it could be up to 9 hours. And the difference in price is only 30 euros. So if you take and of course prices are as at the time of the recording of this podcast. Currently for 2023, the prices of the fast speed one is about 80 euros each way. And the slower boat is around 50 euros each way.
I swear 9 hours was the time it took to get one of the islands on the right eastern side of the Aegean. So I'd be opting for the fast one, I think. But just a reminder on that note, sorry, because it's a bit off tangent, but not really, is that if you are going to take the boat this summer from the port of Piraeus, the metro line from Athens Airport has now been extended, so you can reach the port directly without having to change the metro line. Can I get a little clap? You need to put a clap in here. But as I mentioned, Athens International Airport, so can you not fly there?
You can't fly directly, and you can't fly with a domestic flight either. So Folegandros does not offer an airport unless you've got a helicopter, and if you do, you're taking us with you. But you do have 2 islands nearby which do have airports. So number one, Santorini is very close to Folegandros, and Santorini does offer an international airport. So you could fly, for example, from London directly to Santorini, and then you can get a boat from there. The boat, however, despite the fact that it's only about an hour, the cost is 70 euros. So it's not much cheaper than the route from Piraeus. So if you were to do that, I would probably propose that you combine it with Santorini and stay and just, visit Folegandros as well. There might be some cheaper options, but the fast one, which is about an hour, unfortunately costs that much. Another option.
And I guess that's...
Go ahead, sorry.
Would that be? I think that would just be foot passenger, not with the car as well.
No, I think they take a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they take a car. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to fly to Santorini and you're in Athens and you want to, maybe take a plane to one of the closer islands, you can take a plane to the island of Milos, but that would be only from the International Airport of Athens. You wouldn't be able to fly directly to Milos because it's not an international airport. And then from Milos, you can take a boat to Folegandros. And when I went, I actually did combine it with Milos, but I didn't fly to Milos. I took the boat to Milos, and then I took the boat from Milos to Folegandros. And the boats there are quite different. So if there's one that takes an hour, and if you take the one that takes an hour, which is a high speed, it's a bit more expensive. So it's 60 euros. But if you don't, and you've got the luxury of, instead of spending 1 hour, spending 2 or 3 hours, you can actually take a boat for 7 euros. So significantly cheaper. But provided that you're willing to, I wouldn't say waste, but, spend an extra 2 hours on a boat. Of course, this option would to fly to Milos would probably only make sense if you plan to stay there. Otherwise, I imagine cost and time-wise, it might just be better to take the boat from the beginning.
Yeah, I think you'd have to do like a little combo that we like to do. If your name is George, you're probably going to be walking around the island, but probably quickly turn up and find out actually you need a car or a means of transport. What would you recommend is the best way to get around? I'm guessing a car is good, but there probably are other options other than walking.
Interesting one is that we did have a car. However, I do believe that Folegandro is an island you can survive without one. And the reason I say that is because the distances are very small and there are bus routes from all the main points, and from those main points you can easily walk. And because all of the beaches cannot be accessed directly, so there will be a bit of a walk or a small boat ride to get there or a trek, you can probably survive without a car. So I'm just going to say that you can, if you want, it is an island that you can probably rely on the buses.
That's good. And also the bus boats, which is quite cool that you can get little bus routes, but they're actually boats.
But they're for the beaches.
For the beaches. I feel like this is an island as well I feel like a solo visitor could go, because I know we've booked our summer holiday, but I feel like maybe I should go on my own and just it's giving me this, it's calling my name, but would it be suitable for me to go on my own, or who is this island actually for?
I definitely think it is an island you can go solo if you wanted to, or, with a friend. It is particularly popular with couples, and I mean romantic couples. I don't mean, so people with their partners do have a tendency to prefer this island because it's quite romantic. It does have epic sunsets. I hope you've seen the stories that I posted on the day of recording.
Is it better than the Carpathos sunset?
So the difference with Folegandros is, I'm not going to say it's better, but in Folegandros you can see the sunset from many, many points on the island due to the way that it's built. You have nothing blocking you. It's a very open, I don't know how else to say it, but it's a very open air island. And you can catch epic sunsets from multiple points on the island. So we saw epic sunsets from the Church of Banaya. We saw epic sunsets from our room. There's multiple places where you can see amazing sunsets. So I wouldn't say it's better, but it's better or worse. All of the sunsets in Greece are absolutely gorgeous. You have the blue skies and the sea. If you can see the sea, what else do you need when the sun is literally diving into the sea at night? So I think it's hence why I think it's a very romantic island. It's also quite inclusive compared, I guess, in comparison to some other islands, which is a great thing. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it for families with small children due to the fact that I think all of the beaches are unorganized, so you don't get any sunbeds, and many beaches do require a bit of effort to get there. But this is also the charm of the island. Yeah.
And how long would you recommend going? Because it seems quite small and we've got combinations going on. And when would be a time to basically go, do you think?
I spent 5 days there, and I think 5 days was I would say it was probably the perfect amount of days. In 5 days, you've done the island in a very slow pace. You've enjoyed it. You've switched off. You've chillaxed, and you've seen pretty much all the island has to offer. A very good quantity of what the island has to offer. You can stay longer. You can stay less if you want, depending if you're combining it with other islands as well. But personally, I would say 5 days is a great period of time. With respect to when to go, because it's a small island, I would say July or maybe late August. It's not an island you can visit off-peak. Probably many of the businesses will be closed. So I would probably say either in July, or I visited late August, which was a great time to visit. Early September, maybe, if that's what works for you.
We love early September.
Yeah.
So you touched upon combinations, and you said at the start you did it with Milos, but what other combinations would work really well according to what you would do?
So when I combined it, I did 3 islands that year in 2 weeks. I did Milos, Kimolos, and Folegandros, which work perfectly together. That they combine very easily together. You could do it just with Milos if you wanted to. I wouldn't say just with Kimolos, because in order to get to Kimolos, you have to go to Milos. So you might as well do both in one go. You could do it with Santorini if you're flying and you're using Santorini as your point to get into as an international airport. Or if you want to go fully off the beaten track and fully to 2 islands which are very unspoilt, then you could combine Folegandros with an island called Sikinos.
Have you been to that one?
Not yet, unfortunately. It's been on my radar for quite some time.
It didn't even come up on the radar when we were discussing summer, but maybe it's very, very small, so you'd have to do it with something else.
That's because I'd need to combine it with one that I've been to before, and we've had a few other ones higher on the list.
Yeah, true. It's not there yet. I'm guessing you stayed in Chora, but if you did, great. But give our listeners where you think the best place to stay would actually be.
So you're right. Yes, we did stay in Chora, but I would definitely recommend booking in advance because options are quite limited. And
so can I just quickly interrupt? Does the ferry come to Chora?
No, the ferry can't come to Chora because Chora is very high
that's what I was
up.
thinking.
So
where does it go?
The ferry goes to an area called Garabostasi.
Okay, I think we'll cover that later on. Okay, yes. That was just a question.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then you have to go up to Chora. It's about 15, I think it's about 10 minutes, maybe 15. But yeah, we chose Chora, book in advance, limited options. Although, bearing in mind that we said that the distances are quite short, you can choose to stay anywhere actually on the island if you want to, even if you have or don't have a car. But if you do have a car and you choose not to stay in Chora does offer this huge municipality parking which you can park in, and yeah, it's super easy. So other options potentially that I would have chosen if we didn't stay in Chora would have probably been a nearby village called Anomeria, which is close enough to Chora. You could probably even walk it, maybe 20-25 minutes, I think. Do not quote me on this. And yeah, there's some really cool cafes and some quite laid back traditional places to eat in Anomeria as well. And that's where we were actually mainly eating on our way back from the beaches in the afternoon, due to the fact that there's more traditional and laid back places to eat on the way. But there's one thing I do remember from Anomeria to Chora, and this is if you're driving. I remember at some point there was a super, super narrow street that you just needed to be so careful, because if at any point going through this street, anyone is coming on the other side, you'd have to reverse. And knowing you, George, you'd probably be in panic mode.
If in doubt, with beaches now, if in doubt, do not go down.
Yeah.
Like any doubt. Yeah, I'd be panicked already. I just the thought of it.
Yeah.
Usually you're driving, so that's good. But if I go on my own, I'll walk.
Yeah.
But in terms of Chora, what was the dessert scene like? Because I know we like our banoffees and nice little desserts. Did you find some nice places to?
There were, and there's 2 quite famous actually dessert spots in Chora, and I will mention them further down. With one like having these most crazy waffles, and I'm not even a waffle person, but I ate waffles.
Nice.
So you will find some very good desserts in Chora.
So before we move on to the beaches, which is one of my fave, and then there's lots of unorganized situations going on here, I'm really interested to find out if Folegandros has a lighthouse. It's really random for our. Yeah, no, because it'll get copyright because my singing is so good.
You're actually allowed up to 10 seconds, so go for it.
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah, but random. But for our non-Greek listeners, there's or don't listen to Greek music. There is a really, really famous song by, she came second in Eurovision in 2018, Eleni Foureira. She's actually for Cyprus.
She came for Cyprus second, yeah.
But she has a Greek song and she talks about Pharos στη Φολέγανδρο, which is the lighthouse in Folegandros. And it's a very famous song. So is there a lighthouse? Did you find it? You probably went before this song, but...
So a few things to unpack here. Number one, yeah, maybe, I think Foureira is probably known internationally now. Although if you're my friend Vinny, you've known her for quite some time and listened to her every morning. Shout
Vinny
out
loves
to
Foureira,
you, Vinny.
doesn't he?
Oh my God, he loves her. But and any Greek artist, I think, for that matter. But Foureira, I think Eleni Foureira is definitely top on his list. And we had watched that specific Eurovision together. So he became obsessed with her, I think, after the Fuego representing Cyprus. I think it was 2019. Nevertheless, moving on, did I find a lighthouse in Folegandros? No, I didn't. I probably would have looked for it after Eleni Foureira's song came out. However, I was pretty sure you were going to ask this because I know your obsession with Greek music, cheesy Greek music, not trying to say that this song is cheesy, but George does like his cheesy music. So I did check, and there is a lighthouse in Folegandros, which you can get to from one of the beaches you are going to mention. So I will tell you then.
Okay, so going to the beaches, so that's on my to-do list. When I go to Folegandros, I'm going to find it. But it's not like a specific lighthouse anyway. So I was doing some research, as I haven't been, for my future trip. A really good website, which I guess is the local website, folegandros.com, which we've got some of the beaches referenced. So the first one, I did mention about them being quite rocky and sandy. So is Ayali Beach. I presume you've been there.
Yeah,
a really
so
good thing that I like.
The Ayali Beach is one that you're not going to miss for many reasons. Because number one, you can actually, if you have a car, you can actually drive to it directly. It's the only beach you can drive to directly. But it's also a starting point for many other beaches.
Okay, yeah, because it says here you can take the boat for beaches such as Ayos Nikolaos and I think Livadaki.
Correct. So, and also there's another one on the way to Ayos Nikolaos, which is called Galifos, I think. I personally would recommend walking to Ayos Nikolaos, but for Livadaki, taking the boat. And that's what we did.
Yeah. And the thing here, whilst it's unorganized, I think it mentioned, I presume you would have had coffee or eaten there because there's some restaurants.
Yeah, there are some beachfront restaurants. Okay. And yes, I have eaten there and they're quite nice actually because there's a few traditional ones on. Okay. They're not exactly on the beachfront, but they're a bit that you have to walk up. It's like on. As you're walking en route to Ayos Nikolaos, you will find these restaurants. So they're not on the beach, but they're very close to the beach.
So you need to be having trainers. You can't be going flip-flops up and down these little...
Well, from Ayali to Ayos Nikolaos, you can walk with flip-flops. It's not a difficult walk. For the treks on the island, definitely with trainers.
Yeah, trainers. So the next beach on the list was Katergo Beach, which was described as beach with white pebbles and crystal clear waters, which is literally like most beaches in Greece, if I'm not going to lie. But this one you can't get to by car.
No. So there's two ways. You either drive to a specific point and then you trek, or you take the boat. If you're going to trek it, which I actually did, you do need trainers. Definitely recommend having trainers. The trek is epic. But I must admit it was a bit hard on the way up, especially if you come up before it gets a bit cooler. If you come up before 3, it's quite difficult to get up. So make sure you have trainers, make sure you have water, maybe a cooler bag as well to keep that water a bit cool, and also make sure you have a hat.
And then the next beaches that I saw was Kohilida, Vardia Beach and Livadaki Beach.
Wait, you're going a bit too fast for me. So,
okay.
So going back to Katergo,
okay.
Another thing to bear in mind is that if you trek it down, make sure you don't take the boat back. Or if you do take the boat back, so for example, let's say that you've got a car and you've driven to the point where you start the trek. The point where you start the trek is nowhere near the point you will be left if you take the boat back. So make sure that you organize that correctly. If you go with the boat, leave with the boat. We did the trek to get there before the people with the boat, so it wasn't overcrowded. We did trek back, but some friends of ours that year that went before us, I had visited with a friend. They trekked down and then they took the boat back, and then they were stranded and they were trying to get back to their car, which deemed a bit of a mission. So just bear that in mind. Then Kohilida Beach, which you mentioned after, is right next to the port. It's next to Gadergo. And that is probably the only beach on the island which is considered extremely child-friendly. It's not organized, but there's natural shades from trees on the beach. And there's lots of things nearby, like a little mini market or cafes, etc. So hence why it's considered child-friendly. And then Livadagi Beach, which you mentioned, is the one that you will take the boat from Ayali. And that is the beach that you can trek from to get to a lighthouse, which is called Aspropunda. And the specific lighthouse seems to be abandoned. FYI.
Oh, okay. If we ever reach it. Are there any other? Oh no! Before we go into that, my research did find a beach that wasn't even on Google Maps, which means someone probably hasn't even registered it. So if you do find it and you go to it, that'd be good. You might want to register. I don't know how you register on Google Maps, but it's called Budaki Beach. And on the blogs talk about it, but maybe people go to it and don't realize
I'm not sure if
that.
I went. I mean, we did go to quite a lot of beaches. I don't recall if we went to Budaki
It looks pretty
Beach.
small, so it might just be literally like not worthy of a name. I don't know. Yeah.
One thing I'm going to caveat though is there are a few nudist beaches on the islands.
Ooh.
And do bear that in mind, or ask which ones are in case you don't want to go to the nudist beaches. There is a possibility you might end up there by accident, like we did. Which was
hello.
Yeah.
Can I join in, please?
It was so funny because the way down to the beach was a right struggle, and we get there and we realize that it's a nudist beach. I had no issue staying. My friend was like, I don't want to stay here. And I was like, fine, let's leave.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I don't want to go up that cliff again. I was like, fine, let's just stay. And our relationship will go to the next level.
But like, I don't know
she
what
was
the
not happy.
What is the etiquette of a nudist beach? Like, should you go nude as well? Or can you just stay as
you don't
are?
have to go nude. You don't have to go nude.
Because I'd be like, should I be nude? But I don't want to be nude. And like, is it? I don't know. I'd just be like,
I think just do whatever you feel. If you want to go nude,
you do
go
you,
nude.
What are the other points of interest of the island?
So we mentioned Hora. Hora is very
Yeah.
picturesque, beautiful to walk around, and you definitely should do it. The castle that you mentioned at the beginning, the Gastro. However, Gastro is actually a part of Hora. It's not in a separate place. And as most castles on the islands, it was constructed to protect the residents from pirate attacks. Very close to Hora, you can walk from Hora, is the Church of Panaya, which is not to be missed. It's prefer to go on foot. Let's not use the donkeys, people. I think there's one donkey that goes up and down. There used to be when I went. It's not a difficult walk. Come on, we can do it. And it is the most epic spot on the island to watch the sunset. And you can get exceptional views that just overlooking this cliff that just reminds you and it gives you the impression that you're actually in Santorini. So don't not miss the sunset there. And then the other village that I really enjoyed was the village of Anomeria. So I think these are definitely points of interest that you should not be missing. Now, I don't recall the island having a lot of nightlife. In general, the people would just gather around the central square in Hora at night, either having, a bit of dessert or some rakomelo, which is a local spirit, a local Greek spirit, not a local to Folegandros, but local to Greece. And the two places that are very highly recommended in general for dessert is Parasagas or Lodzia. And you can also have breakfast there or like an afternoon coffee or a bit of dessert. And then the place that we would go for Ragomelo, which is right in the middle of the square, was called I think it was called Astarti Bar, which was literally everyone we used to sit like on the church stairs and just sip Ragomelo. So it was quite chilled.
I like this chill vibe. Like,
Yeah, it's nice.
Just it is what it is. On the topic of food,
it's definitely an island that you and me would enjoy because there's no late nights.
and no one interrupting our sleep from the loud music. Yeah. But on the topic of food, what are the any food recommendations on this island or local food production we should be aware of?
So on the island, they produce a very famous dish is something called matsada, which effectively is very thick pasta with a dry local cheese and rooster. So that's the local dish. It's very nice, and you can have the vegetarian option, so without the rooster if you want, just the pasta with the cheese or with the rooster. However, I would ask that make sure that the pasta is not cooked with the rooster so that it is a veggie dish. I'm suspecting that it is because they come separately and the one has salsa and the other doesn't. They produce a lot of local cheeses on the island, and on local bakeries you can find some pies that are quite different to the savouries that you find on other bakeries in Greece in general. So those are the three that I would recommend. Top options in general to eat. So for matsada, a place in Anomeria called Sinandisi is super popular in general with the locals and with tourists. And then in Anomeria, there is a tavern, which is also a grocery store, which is super popular to visit, even if you're just going to have a coffee, which is run, I think, by an old lady called Irini. So it's Irini's Tavern. And it's beautiful just to visit because you walk in and it's a grocery store, but it's also a taverna, and it's also got a small little balcony, and it's in a traditional home. It's a very beautiful thing to see. And then definitely try one of the bakeries outside of Hora to try and find one of these pies. Mm-hmm. And then I recall there was some cute coffee shops in Anomeria where you're literally sitting outside and you're in the middle of nowhere and you just feel very serene. Otherwise,
that tavern that you...
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
That tavern you mentioned, Irini's Tavern in Greek, Irini in English means peace.
Yes,
so
it
for
does.
those bite-sized Greek listening crew.
It does. And then there's a very, very famous cafe/restaurant in the castle, in the area of the castle, which if you've seen pictures from Folegandros, you've probably seen a picture of the outside of this famous restaurant, which is called Punda. And then lastly, as a last point, point of interest and production on the island, I did see it. At the time I didn't go, very regretting it after I've read up on it. There is one winery on the island, and it's located in a historic building in Hora, which was actually the old magistrate's court, and the winery is called Domain Paliomilos. So when we go, George, we're definitely going.
I'm so shocked you didn't go.
I know, me too.
You run out of time? Wine wasn't on your radar?
I think I was in such a chillaxed mood. I was spending a lot of time at the beach during that holiday. And I remember seeing it. I remember saying, oh, we should come back. And I just didn't.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Yeah, shame on you. But next time, now we've got the podcast, we have to be exploring. We have to know everything about every island. Actually, we will never will, but anyway. Well, let's look at some top tips, and I think I might steal one of yours if you've got the one that I'm thinking of. But from what you've said, and if I was to go there, I think the one thing I've taken from this is I would need a good pair of walking shoes and just have them with me for any beaches that might just need them, because there's nothing worse than wearing like the thong flip-flop, and it getting stuck as you're walking down, and you can easily injure yourself. So a good pair of walking shoes.
Definitely a good pair of walking shoes. And I'd even say maybe a good, a nice summer backpack to have, since you need to walk. And within that, you need like a nice fabric cooler. So for the beach, and a hat. Definitely take a hat. This is definitely an island. All beaches are unorganized. Not all of them offer natural shade. So you're definitely going to need a hat.
And you could bring your coffee. It will take away
and your
coffee
reusable, eco-friendly cup. And you can bring your straw as long as you're not banging it while we're recording your podcast.
What other tips do you have?
So, FYI, the island doesn't offer a bank, but it does offer cash points. So just keep that in mind. Although the majority of the places now do accept cards, which didn't used to be the case, but they do now. As I mentioned that I didn't really eat much in Chora, and that's because at the time you do tend to find more authentic places outside of Chora. I hope that's no longer the case and that you can find a more authentic meal. But we were only there for 5 days. We were eating on the way back from the beach. Sometimes we ate at Ayali, which is right on the beach. And then sometimes on the way through Anomeria, because there's so much, there were a few very great options there. We did eat mainly there. As George said, make sure you have a good pair of walking shoes, cooler bag, backpack. And then
don't get caught out on a nudist beach.
Don't get caught out on a nudist beach. Yeah, I mean, just go with it. Hashtag free
go
the
with the
nipple
flow.
kind of situation. I don't know. Just chill. I think it's an island that you need to unwind and chillax. So if you end up on a nudist beach and you feel like,
getting it out.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Put sun cream on.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You don't want to be burning in places that have never seen the sun before.
Indeedy. Anything
But
else
anyway,
before we?
I think that's all I have to share on this episode. And I think
You've actually sold this island to me. Like, not that I needed selling, but like, it was like, I feel like when you leave, because we're going for a week away, maybe I'll take 5 days and go here. I don't know.
So maybe next year we need to be doing it with Siginos.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We'll fly into
and
Santorini
report back.
and head off.
And report back. So as we come to the end of the episode, what we always like to do is to give you a Greek phrase for this episode. And it's not going to be the song, but we will leave the song title in the comments. The word for today's episode is we are going to Folégandro for trekking or walking, or we have come to Folegandro for trekking, because if you're there and someone's asking you like, oh, how come you came? So we have Πάμε, which is let's go. Πάμε στην Folegandro, let's go to Folegandro. Για πεζοπορία for trekking. So Πάμε στην Folegandro για πεζοπορία. So let's go to Folegandro for trekking. Or you can say we have come here for trekking. So Ήρθαμε, which is we have come. Στην Folegandro, to Folegandros, για πεζοπορία. So all in one, Ήρθαμε στη Folegandro για πεζοπορία. Do you want to have a go at both of them so they can get another angle?
Sure. So πάμε στη Folégandro για πεζοπορία, or ήρθαμε στη Folégandro για πεζοπορία.
I think that's a wrap.
It is indeed. So thank you all for listening. And if you visit Folegandros, let us know what you loved, and definitely if you found the tips and tricks shared on the episode useful.
And if you found the lighthouse.
And if you found the lighthouse while listening to the song of Eleni Foureira.
Exactly. Until then, we will see you you will listen to us on the next episode. Γεια σας.
Γεια σας.
Right, my Greek Islanders, this comes to the end of another episode of this podcast.
Now you know the drill. If you like this episode, share it to share the love with the My Greek Island community, where everyone is welcome. And
don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And maybe give us a little rating from wherever you're listening to us from, so you are notified every time a new episode drops. And if you have any suggestions or requests, get in touch.
And for those of you visiting Greece, don't forget to tag @My Greek Island on Instagram for a future feature. Until then, see you later, or as they say in Greek,
Ta leme.